Arthur Bell had always believed that time could fix anything. He used to tell Margaret, "Give it time, love. Time smooths the edges." But when she died, he discovered the truth. Time doesn't heal. It waits. It stands still, quietly holding the space where love used to be. He and Margaret had been married for 52 years, half a century of laughter, storms, and small joys. They didn't have much, but they had each other, and that was always enough. Their life was built on little rituals: tea at 6:30 sharp, the same old kettle that squeaked when it boiled, the way she'd hum as she set out 2 cups by the window, her favorite lace curtains catching the first light of dawn. She'd always say, "Mornings are promises, Arthur, even the cloudy ones." When she was gone, the mornings felt cruel. The house, once alive with warmth and chatter, became a place of echoes. The radio played, but no one sang along. Her chair remained untouched. Her glasses still rested beside her favorite book, The Secret Garden. For weeks, Arthur spoke to the air. He told her about the mail, the neighbor's new car, the pie he'd burned again. It wasn't madness. It was survival. Because silence, when you've known a voice that long, is unbearable. He tried to go outside, to walk the block like he used to, but even the sky seemed emptier. The park they used to visit felt like someone else's memory. Everything good belonged to before. Then one winter morning, the attic called to him. He hadn't been up there in years. Dust danced in the slanted light as he opened the hatch. Boxes lined the walls, full of forgotten things, Christmas ornaments, old letters, yellowed photographs. And there it was, a small cardboard box with her handwriting on it, for someday. His heart stumbled. He sat on the cold wooden floor, lifting the lid. Inside were seed packets, dozens of them. Tulips, daisies, roses, lavender, each one labelled in her looping script. Wildflowers by the fence, roses near the porch, lavender where the sun hits in the afternoon. And on one packet, smaller and fainter than the rest, she'd written, "For spring, when we have more time." Arthur stared at it for a long time, his hands trembling. For the first time in months he let himself cry, not from loss, but from the unbearable beauty of being remembered. That night, sleep didn't come. He sat by the window watching the world fade from blue to black, and somewhere between the stars and the ache, he decided, "All right, Margaret, let's finish what we started." The next morning, he stepped into the cold yard, shovel in hand. The ground was hard, unyielding. He was 79, and his joints protested every movement, but he dug anyway. Each seed was a prayer, each handful of soil an apology. He planted until his fingers were raw, until the sky turned violet, and as the first light of spring kissed the earth, he whispered, "This one's for you, love." Days passed, then weeks, nothing. The earth remained bare, stubborn, a mirror of his heart. Until one April morning, a hint of green broke through the soil. Then another, and another. Tiny sprouts pushing upward, defying the cold. Arthur knelt and smiled, a quiet, trembling smile. "You're here," he whispered. "You really came back." Soon, colors began to bloom. Lavender by the porch, daisies along the fence, roses beneath the kitchen window. The scent filled the air like a memory reborn. Neighbors began to stop by. Some waved from the sidewalk. Others left small notes by the gate that read, "Beautiful garden, Mr. Bell." He'd nod, thanking them politely, but inside he knew it wasn't his garden. It was theirs. His and Margaret's. From the upstairs window he noticed something extraordinary. The flowers weren't growing randomly. They curved into a shape, an M. Margaret. Arthur laughed through tears. "You clever woman," he said, "still leaving your mark." One afternoon, a soft knock came at the door. A teenage girl stood there holding a dying plant in a chipped pot. "I heard you can fix things," she said. Arthur smiled. "I can try." Her name was Emily, She'd lost her father the year before, and her mother worked double shifts. She said she didn't know why she'd come, just that she saw his garden and something about it felt peaceful. Together they knelt in the soil. Arthur showed her how to loosen roots, how to breathe life back into something fading. Plants are like people, he said. They need patience more than perfection. From then on, Emily came every day. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they just worked in silence, the sound of wind and soil saying what words couldn't. Weeks turned into months. Other kids started showing up, curious at first, then devoted. They helped plant marigolds and mint, built birdhouses, painted stones. They laughed, cried, and found healing in the dirt. And just like that, Arthur's quiet backyard became something sacred, a place where broken things found new roots. On his 80th birthday, the townspeople gathered. They hung lights across the trees and brought homemade food. A wooden sign stood by the gate, the garden that love built. Arthur stood before them, voice shaking but sure. I planted this garden to remember someone I lost, but what I found was everyone I'd been missing. That night, he sat on his porch under a sky of stars, 2 cups of tea beside him, one untouched. He looked at the glowing garden and whispered, "You did it, Margaret. You found a way to keep me company." And for the first time in years, the silence felt like peace. Years passed. The seasons turned. Arthur aged gently, like an old song played slower, but no less beautiful. His garden became a local treasure. People visited from neighboring towns, leaving notes, seeds, and small stones with names on them, tributes to their own lost loves. Emily went off to college to study horticulture. She sent him letters filled with pressed flowers and gratitude. "You taught me," she wrote once, "that grief isn't a wall. It's a garden waiting to be planted." When Arthur's hands grew too weak, the townspeople took over. They watered the flowers, trimmed the vines, and whispered his name as they worked. The last spring he saw, the garden was more beautiful than ever, a sea of color swaying beneath the sunlight. He sat beneath the lilac tree, their tree, and smiled. "This is it," he said softly. "We finally have more time." When Arthur passed away that summer, the whole town came together. They buried him beneath the lilac tree, next to a small stone engraved with his words, "Where something ends, something begins. Where love is planted, it never dies." Today the garden still stands. Children laugh among the flowers. Couples sit by the roses. Strangers find comfort in the quiet hum of bees and wind. And when the breeze blows just right, it carries the faint scent of tea and lilac. And maybe, just maybe, the soft laughter of 2 souls who never truly said goodbye. Because Arthur Bell didn't build a garden. He built a promise. A reminder that even when everything seems lost, love can still bloom. Again and again and again. It had been 10 years since Arthur Bell's passing. The garden, now tended by dozens of hands, had grown beyond anyone's imagination. The roses reached the windows, the lavender spread across the paths, and the lilac tree, Arthur and Margaret's tree, stood taller than ever, its blossoms painting the air with scent and memory. Every spring, the town held a celebration called the Day of Bloom. People brought photographs of loved ones they had lost and placed them among the flowers. For one day each year, the garden became more than a place. It became a living conversation between the past and the present. Emily, no longer the shy teenager with the wilted plant, had returned to live in the same town. Now 30, she was a teacher. Every morning before class, she visited the garden, trimming, watering, talking to the plants the way Arthur had taught her. She often found herself whispering his words. Plants are like people. They need patience more than perfection. One morning, she noticed a small boy kneeling by the lilac tree. He was pressing a packet of seeds into the dirt, his face serious. Emily approached gently. "What are you planting?" The boy looked up. "My grandma used to love sunflowers," he said. "She said they follow the light even when it rains. I wanted to give her some." Emily felt her throat tighten. She knelt beside him. "That's a beautiful reason," she said softly. "Would you like some help?" Together they planted the seeds in silence. The boy's hands were small and clumsy, just like hers had once been, and as they worked, Emily realized something that made her heart swell with quiet awe. The garden was still teaching. Later that evening, as the sunset turned the petals gold, she walked through the paths alone. The laughter of children echoed in the distance. Somewhere, wind chimes sang their delicate tune. She paused under the lilac tree and looked up at the plaque. Where something ends, something begins. Where love is planted, it never dies. She smiled. "You were right, Arthur," she whispered. "You and Margaret both." The breeze stirred gently, brushing her hair across her face. For a brief, impossible moment, she could have sworn she heard two voices laughing together, soft, warm, eternal. And as the first stars began to bloom in the evening sky, the lilac petals fell like confetti, covering the garden paths in purple light. Emily tilted her head back, closed her eyes, and whispered to the wind, "Thank you for teaching us that love grows back." The garden breathed, alive and endless, and somewhere beyond the horizon, two souls smiled, watching their garden, still blooming with goodbyes that had turned into beginnings.